I was saved when I was 5, but grew up going every Sunday morning, went to Awana, did youth group things, went to church camp during the summer. And then when I got to high school, didn't really want to go much anymore. And when I left home, I left Jesus. And I did it all. I was wild. I would say I was a Christian, but there was nothing evident of that in my life. And I was a party girl. And there were some friends who I later on ran into again later on in my life. They were there, same year as me. I knew they were Christians. They were part of different Christian groups. And they kept inviting me, but I'd always say, no, not for me. Fast forward, I graduate from college and work for a year here in Columbus. And then I was so restless and just tired of my life. And I ended up finding myself living in the Florida Keys in a very bad relationship. And it was the worst of the worst. And I look back on that person, I don't even recognize who she, meaning me, was. Trapped, scared for my life. And one January, on a Sunday morning, I went to a little Baptist church, and it reminded me of the church I grew up in. And the next Sunday, I was really, really sick, but there was a stirring in me, and I knew I had to get out of this situation, get out of Florida, and get home. But ultimately, I had to turn my life around, and the only one that could do that was the Lord. And so I went back that Sunday, and the sermon that day was pretty much talking about, you gotta walk the Christian walk. You can't just talk it. You have to live it out fully. And I felt like the pastor was talking specifically to me in that pew. And at the end of the service, a lady turned around and said, "Thank you so much for coming back today. I'm glad to see you," and asked my name. Her name was Judy. It's the only time I've ever met her. And she asked me about my life, and I just broke. And I told her I'd been living in sin. I was scared. I needed to get home to my parents. So she invited me to her house, and I was able to call my mom. And my parents flew down on a 2-day notice and rescued me. But the real rescuer of this story was Jesus, because all I could do, I was so broken, I was so scared, I was at the bottom of the barrel of my life. And all I could do was look up and say, "Lord, rescue me from this." And he did.